I think the other three will join little later. Okay, so last class we have seen about organizing of a rehabilitation unit. So today we will see about something called pre-vocational evaluation and training. This actually after a person, I hope all of you are there, right?
Yes, miss.
Okay. So after a person has undergone the rehabilitation training or rehabilitation, that means like after the acute rehabilitation, they will be in the they will be undergoing the home-based rehabilitation or they will be undergoing a community-based rehabilitation. After that rehabilitation, once the person is able to do his ADL activity, the next thing we have to look for is whether the person is eligible to go for his job. So it rehabilitation means it doesn't just stop when you are making the person to get accommodated to his house or modify his house according to his need, and if the person is able to do the ADL activities and other thing like it doesn't stop there. So it goes beyond one step beyond that, whether the person is able to work and earn for himself. Is that clear? So the whole team will be acting not only for the functional independence but also for the job or earning independence, their financial independence. So that's where rehabilitation doesn't just stop with the health; it also goes beyond that. So that the you need to make the person able to stand independently, and not only that, you have to make him to work and earn something for his livelihood. So, this pre-vocational education and training will be like it will be assisting an individual with disability to overcome his handicapness, and he will be like he has to get adopted to the environment and he has to join a new job. So maybe like this can be like whether you make him independent and go back to his original job, or you make him independent and give training and make him to take up a new job. So sometimes like after rehabilitation they may not be able to achieve their normal independency, so they need a lot of modifications and they may be in a different level of independency. So in that, if they are not able to look or work in their previous job, then they have to undergo some kind of training, and the team will be making them eligible for a different working environment or different job. So that is the main work of this vocational rehabilitation. So here it is not a single day work, or it is not a single day activity. It is a series of action. That means like it is a sequential progress. So once the person is coming under rehabilitation after the acute treatment, once the person comes under the rehabilitation, the whole team will be working in different direction, but the end point will be one. That is, the end point will be making them to be independent in his ADL, not only in his ADL, his family, his life, and his financial. So different team members will be working in their level or working in their job responsibility. So it is a progression of all related service, and at the end the person will be trained towards that. Maybe the person himself will not be aware of it, but the team will be working for that particular progression, and the team will be able to end up, or their whole aim is to end up in a particular job or anything. So this doesn't happen in one setup. It will be happening in different overlapping frames. That means like each person will be working towards that particular aim, but they may overlap or they may independently work towards that. So here if you see like these typical services will be including vocational assessment. That means you need to assess a particular person what is his level, whether the person is eligible to that particular job, or the person needs to undergo some training to improve his abilities, or the person needs to take up a different job. So for that, whether they need a different kind of training to be given, all those things will be coming under this occasional assessment and evaluation. So first they will assess it, then they will be undergoing an evaluation, then they will come to a conclusion that these are the particular jobs that is this person is eligible. So according to the eligibility, they will be giving some training. So that training is called as vocational training. So this vocational training, it doesn't, it may be enhancing his already present skills, or it may be a new skills, like giving a new training to a new skill, or like whether it is like just upgrading the general skills, like general skills means like communication skills or cognitive skills, like that they will be under a general skill, so it will be upgrading towards that. Okay, then it also include a career counseling on training program means they will be first they will be undergoing a training, then they will be giving a employment, and in that particular factory or in that particular area again they will be undergoing a job training. Okay, then job search, consultation, all these people, all these services will be included into this pre-vocational evaluation or pre-vocational or vocational rehabilitation. Okay, so this process is, as we said, it is not going to happen in a single day or a single activity. It is a sequence of activity. So side by side, along with the rehabilitation, this kind of activity also will be taking place. So this includes various steps. The first step is diagnostic service and referral. So diagnostic service and referral means first the clients will be referred to a needed specialty people or needed specialty area. So that means like they first they will see the eligibility of a person, or like how is the person, according to that what are the services needed. Maybe he needs a medical examination, maybe he needs a psychological evaluation, maybe he needs a neurophysical evaluation, or like psychiatric or hand function or anything like that. So depends on the patient's ability, he will be undergoing, or uh, he will be uh, he will be given referral to that particular service people, and they will be evaluating this person. So that is the first step. So the team members who are in the rehabilitation team or who are in the vocational rehabilitation team, first they will be giving referral to various people, and those people will come and they will do the examination, they will do the evaluation, and according to that they will give a list of things. Then based on that, the next step will continue. So what is this need of this diagnostic service? Why can't a single person handle? So single person cannot handle the complete vocational evaluation process, because first thing is they may not be aware of all the skills. So any single person will not be aware of a complete skill. So they may not be able to do all the examination. So you need a special people who are able to do those particular evaluation. So that is the main purpose. Another thing is to determine the functional limitation related to the disability. A particular person, or you can say like two spinal cord injury person, may be having the same level of disability, but it doesn't mean that their function also will be similar. So two people who are having a paraplegia doesn't mean that they will be having same functional limitation. So some person will be putting a lot of effort and he will be able to do a higher function, but some people, even though the limitations or disability is very less, they will not be able to do a lot of other functions. So the purpose of this diagnostic services first is to determine the function limitation. with related to the disability. That is one thing. And even if they have the limitation, they will also check whether that particular person will be able to get the training and improve himself. Okay, that means some people will be there, even though if you are giving a lot of training also, they may not be able to learn the new skills. Some people will be learning the new skills within few days. Some people will take lot of time. Some people, even though if you are giving a training, they may not be able to improve the skill. So those limitations and all, they will be determined by this special people who we are going to refer. Then second thing is, their main purpose is to identify the psychological, psychosocial, educational, and economic factor that may interact with the disabled person. That means, like for example, a person you have evaluated and you have asked the person to go to a particular job, but for going to the particular job, he needs a specialized transport, but the patient will not be able to buy that kind of transport, maybe a modified car or something. So they may not be able to buy the particular car. So that is the economic hindrance. So this referred people, they will check all those things, and they will check whether they are able to get any sponsors or anybody, and according to that they will be deciding the job. Then next is to identify the real strength of the client and to develop a vocational goals. So vocational goals is to give the training. Then to identify the client's immediate objective on long-term uh, vocational rehabilitation goals. So some people may not be able to take up the job immediately. He may be able to take up the job little later, maybe after 2 years or 3 years. So the particular a particular goal will be reached later, but still the work will be all the like they have to do the training from the beginning. Okay, so maybe the training will be starting now, but the job or the ability of the person to undergo the particular job may take 2 years or 3 years also. Okay, so those things will be identified earlier. Then whether the information required before the profession is able to derive a vocational rehabilitation planning. That means that particular job, whether it will be suiting to the individual client. Okay, so all the clients may not be able to take up a equal job. Some people may look down to certain jobs. Some people will be okay with the certain simple jobs. Some people will be okay to take up a odd job. Some people just want to earn money, so they will take up whatever job you are giving. So it depends on each person or each client. The requirements also will be varying. Okay, so these are the purpose for us to give the referral to the need special people, and those people will come and examine all these things. Then next step is through the medical records, they will be collecting lot of information. So this referred people or specialty people, when they are doing an evaluation, they don't just do from their point itself. They will be taking the all the past history, all the medical records they have undergone, all those things will be taken up. So medical records also is very very important. Then third is they will be observing the person for some time. So immediately they will not jump to a conclusion. They will be observing the person for some time, maybe some days, months, or sometimes years also. Then they will be going with the inventories and the checklist. Inventories means the checklist they will be having. What are the job availabilities, and what are the job description, what are the needs of the particular job, and according to that then they will just try to match with the particular person. So that is the checklist. Then fifth is vocational assessment. Vocational assessment means they will give you a complete assessment that this person is fit for this particular job, provided he has to undergo this kind of training. Maybe he needs more of arm power. So you need to, as a physio, you need to improve the upper limb strength. As a physio, you need to improve the lower limb strength, or as a physio you need to improve the finger strength. So like that, so they will come to a conclusion after undergoing all this vocational assessment. They will give you a conclusion. Sometimes you may need to involve and you may need to train them according to the. So this vocational training is like vocational assessment. Again, it is not only done for a person who are affected. It is also done for a normal people. So once they want to give a appraisal, once they want to give a promotion, then also this particular vocational assessment is done. So this vocational assessment is not only done to know the physical function, it is also done to know the social and behavioral characteristics of a particular person, the background check. So this vocational assessment is not done only for a disabled person, but also for normal persons before doing a promotion or giving a bigger job. For example, if they want to select a CEO of a very big concern like Google or World Bank or like that, so all the bigger institutions will have their own this occasional assessment people. They will be doing a lot of background work before selecting a person for a particular job. Okay, so it is not just like that simply they choose a person to become a CEO or become a managing director of a bigger concern. So all lot of background works will be done. So that's why it is not only done for a physically challenged person, it is also done for a normal person. So this will be including all the medical records, psychological, whether the person is able to tackle the stress, whether the person is able to manage the negatives. So all those things will be checked properly. Afterwards, like after this evaluation, they will come to a conclusion what type of training you need to give to the particular person. So based on that only they will be going into the training aspect. So not all the persons will be undergoing the same kind of training. So different, every individualistic training also will be given according to the need. So this individualistic training will be based on the severity of the disability the person is having, or it will be if it is a normal person, then according to that how they want to give. If it is a disabled person, according to them, what are the other training they will be giving. So now, so what are the methods we have to do this vocational assessment? It is not just like observing. You just give a conclusion in a piece of paper. You can't justify it with a single piece of paper, or you cannot just justify with your own. So you need to undergo certain methods, or you need to do certain standardized procedure to give this evaluation. So we have nearly 8 standardized methods. The first one is standardized testing and paper pencil test. So here the standardized testing and paper pencil test is like your aptitude test or your preliminary written test or preliminary oral test. So maybe screening test. So this may be a written one or a computer based one. So where when a very like large population of people are applying to a particular job, so they do a paper pencil test, or they ask them certain questions and ask them to fill up the answers. So this will help them to identify their IQ level, because this test will be including the cognitive one. Then this also not only cognitive one, it also includes all the other aspects, and it will give them a good picture about their aptitude, IQ, then their personality, then their career decision making. So depends on the job, the questionnaire or the test will be differing. So if a person, for example, if you want to become a I don't know what they will say here in Malaysia. So in case if you want to become a army officer, or in case if you want to become a chief police inspector. So all these people will be undergoing a lot of primary or preliminary examination. So that preliminary examination is called as paper pencil testing. So it will be including lot of other aspects, like in case if they want to choose you for a decision, as a bigger position like a marketing manager or a managing director, then they will be giving a lot of situations like decision making. So then they will check how they are deciding, how they are judging the person, how they are able to decide the choose the decisions. So all these things will be included in this standardized testing, paper pencil testing. So here, after the testing, they will come to a, like, from a gross idea, they will come to a specific idea. Then apart from this, they will be undergoing going all other tests. But it is not mandatory that all the 8 tests will be taken by all the people. Depends on the need, they will be choosing one or two. The next is work sample. So here what they will do is, they will be checking what is the severity of their disability in the terms of physical or in the terms of psychological. So what they will do is, they will assign, or they will ask the person to demonstrate the same kind of job. So it is like a real life scenario. So where they will be asking you to do the testing with the same kind of situation. For example, a person is a factory worker. So his work is to cut a piece of wood to a particular shape. So they will be giving us the same kind of work, and they will ask them to do us. That is called as work sample. So here also you will be able to measure the aptitude of an individual, or how then while he is performing, they will be analyzing whether the particular person needs to improve his skills, whether he needs any training, whether he is eligible to it, whether he is able to learn the skill or he is not able to learn the skill. So all these things will be decided by observing the person. So again, this is not given for one day and checking. It is like it will be giving in a sequence of process, and the particular person may not know why he is doing that. So he will be just randomly given the work, and they will be observing how he is performing. Next is job analysis. Job analysis is it is more focused towards the particular job. So they will be having a list of characteristics the particular person needs for that particular job, and they will check whether this characteristic is suiting the particular person. So a detailed profile of different job description or requirements will be given, and they will see whether this particular person is able to do that or not. So for example, some jobs need to be worked in a very different environment, like very high temperature environment or very low temperature environment. So they will be asking the person to do the work in a particular temperature and check whether they will be able to perform it or not, and what type of training they need. For example, like if a person is a porter and a crane operator, so how many times he wants to do the particular job, how many weight he will be able to carry, how many weight he will be able to lift, how much, how is his vision, all these things will be checked. So this is called job analysis. So see, all these things you just keep in mind, it is not only done for disabled person, it is also done for a normal person. Okay, so all these things will be checked. So for example, if a person need to be a pilot, then he should not wear any glasses. That means he should have a very perfect vision. So all these things are kind of a pre-requirement. So pre-required description. So they will check whether the particular person is having that or not. Then, so in case if they don't have the characteristic, they whether after giving the training, whether the particular person will be able to fulfill the requirement, or after getting the training, whether the person will be able to do undergo those kind of job. So all these things will be checked. So whether the person needs some modification or the job profile needs some modification. So sometimes the job profile also will be modified according to the person if needed. Next test is situational assessment and progress. So here the person will be given a stimulated work condition and environment based on the actual job, and the person will be evaluated whether he is able to do it or not. So here the real, it's like it's same like the real time working. So but it will be given in the stimulated form. For example, a person is a car driver or a truck driver. In an accident he has lost his legs. So now they have modified the truck in such a way that he will be able to operate everything by using hands. So those people, they will be giving a stimulation of a car driving setup, and they will see whether the person is able to manage the car driving in various situations, in a traffic, in a heavy traffic, while it is raining, all those things using the hands. Okay, so this is called situational assessment and progress. So it is not only given for disabled person, it is also given for a normal person. Okay, so whether like after giving the situation, whether he needs some modification or he needs some training, or directly he will be able to work. So this is called situational assessment and process. Next is like community based assessment and process. So community based assessment and process is also like same like the previous one, but here it will be involving both the work and the community level. That means they not only check whether the person is able to work, do the work in the proper environment, or do the work in a proper climatic condition, but also check what is their social uh, ability. That means whether the person is able to mingle with the other person, whether the person is able to obey the boss, like leader, whether the person is able to oblige to the rules and regulations, whether the person is able to adopt to the nearby persons, whether the person is able to adopt the volunteer work. So all these things will be checked. So here it is not only, they are not only checking the physical fitness of a person to do the work, but also the mental fitness and the and the social fitness. So whether sometimes the person will not be able to talk, will not talk to the neighbor at all. He will be coming and keep doing the work and he will go back. So these kind of people will have some other problem. So you need to see whether they are able, whether they need to modify certain things so that the person will able to work in that particular setup. Next is transferable skill analysis. Sometimes the skills whichever they have may be transferred to the other job, or maybe it is like it can be used in a other particular job. So if a person is a perfect, for example, if a person is a very good shooter, so he will be able to shoot, like use the gun perfectly with a very precise shot also he will be able to take it. So those people, like in case if they don't have upper limb and the upper limb is affected, whether they are able to utilize this particular focus in any other different job, so that one you have to check. So they may have a very good skill, but that skill will with that skill they will not be able to perform their job. Maybe they will be able to transfer the skill to the other job and able to perform the job. So that is your transferable skills analysis. And everybody definitely need to have this transferable skills, otherwise it will be very difficult for us to work in a particular setup. Next is labor market survey. So not only like evaluating the people, you need to evaluate the market, or you need to evaluate the environment or the job needs. So this one is again done by a bigger institutions. They will do. So for example, we will be doing a educational institute will be doing a market survey, and they will find out whether this particular graduate will be able to get a job, how much is the market need, what is the market need. According to that, they will be starting a particular course, and they will be giving the training, and they will be enhancing the skill. So that is called as market survey. So that means what is the real need of the particular environment or particular geographical area. So according to that, they will be able to start a training, and they will be able to train up a person and able to get a job. So that is called as market survey. So apart from all these things, so certain things are this hand activities is very much close to our job responsibility. So all the previous things and all will be done by a vocational trainer or a vocational evaluator. So this one, that functional activities of hand, this is done by either a physiotherapist or the occupational therapist. So, in the vocational assessment or in the vocational pre-evaluation or in the training, our work is to improve all these things. That means, like, our work is to improve the functional activity of the hand, because hand is like it's very important for them to do the job. Any kind of job, you need the hand function. So, as a PT, we need to improve all this functional activity. We need to improve their manipulation ability. Manipulation ability means, like, with the hand, how they are able to grip it and do the work. So that is called as manipulation ability. What is the stability of the hand function? Hand joints. Whether the joints are very stable and stable enough to do the activity. What is the sensation? Or whether they are able to express their things using the hand. Whether how much the hand is giving support for the body to do the work. How much the hand is able to protect themselves from any other unwanted things. Okay, so what are the essential day-to-day activity the hand is able to perform. So our role is majorly to improve all these activities. So that's what our role is there. So according to the Malaysian things, so these are the facilities or privileges available for a PWD person. So they have facilities in the education. They have some exemptional. They have some welfare, job support, and discount. So in the education, they will be able to undergo training without any fees. So see, CBRS, community-based rehabilitation training, will be given without any allowance, without any fees or anything. They will be undergoing this particular training. Then sometimes if they are in a private concern, or if they are studying in a private college, so they will be having a lot of monetary benefits. So there is a financial assistance will be given by the government. Then what are the allowances given by the private colleges? So some allowances will be given by the private colleges for the education of a disabled person. Then what are the exemption they will be given? One is medical fee, then road tax. So in road tax also they can have some exception. Then ID card documents, replacement fee. Then is like for this all like government fees, I guess. So ID card replacement means, like, whenever you are changing the IC and other thing, you need to pay some amount. So they are exempted in paying those things. Then they get additional tax exemptions will be given for them. Then there is some exemption for home line phone, and they will also have some exemption in the zoo and all those parks and other things also. They will be getting exemption in the tickets. Okay, then not only that, they will be having lot of finance assistance for these people from the government. So for through the welfare and other thing, they will be having the financial support. So only thing is, like, we need to train. That is the work of the rehabilitation vocational trainers are to check all these things, and according to that they should help the particular person to apply for this all welfares and the other needed accommodation. Then for in the job portal, in the job support also, they will be having some kind of percentage of job, whether this particular percentage, this particular what to say, like for example, if some 10 jobs are available, then 2 jobs will be given to disabled person, maybe like priorities in the job support, so those also will be given. Then all the discount packages that are available, so these are the things the government of Malaysia is providing the facility and privileges for all this disabled person. Okay. So next is, so who and all will be playing in the vocational rehabilitation team?
Okay.
So vocational rehabilitation team, so they aim to help the individual to obtain or to retain a particular job. So they work in a multidisciplinary approach. It is not an individual effort. It is a team effort where different discipline people will be coming together, and different discipline people will be working towards a particular goal. So it is not only based on the physical disability. It is based on psychological, social, and sometimes like social disability. According to that, the team members also will act. So these are the team members, and the successful, like the vocational rehabilitation will be successful in case if they are able to give training to a person, and able to get a job for a person, and the person is able to do that particular job for some time, then only it means that they have successfully placed a particular person. So simply just getting a job is not the success. So after getting the job, the person need to go and do the work continuously for some time. Then only we say that uh, uh, the job placement is perfect or a success for the particular person. So for this rehabilitation service, three team members are very very important. One is counselor, then skilled trainer, then placement officer. So counselor, we know what is the work of the counselor. So he has to give counseling according to the give counseling according to the person. So it may be a temporary job or it may be a permanent job. So it may be like depends on the need of the particular person. They have to give the counseling according to the different needs, or according to different um, according to the different jobs. So here the particular counselor have to be educated in a very broader base. So he is supposed, before giving counseling, he is supposed to know the in and outs of that particular job, or he is supposed to know about the training or different types of training available for these kind of persons. So the counselor need to have a good knowledge about it, then only he will be able to give the education to the particular needed person. So these are the responsibilities of the counselor. One is evaluating vocational interest of the person, aptitude and skills. So he has to evaluate the vocational aptitude and the skills of the person. Then after that, he has to um, help in shifting the person to other jobs, or for example, he needs to give a good counseling for people who have been shifted to different job other than the one which they were doing previously. So he has to give them a good counseling about the job, as well as about the needed training, or about the needed qualities they needed for that particular job. Then he has to organize the activities to improve the job related behavior. Then he has to liaise with the people who are giving training and the placement agency. So he is the mediator between this mediator in the among the three members. Then he has to give the educational related counseling to the particular person. Then not only that, he has to provide the suitable um, modifications to the particular related to the particular job. He has to say what are the things needed to the particular job and what are the things not needed for the particular job, how the staff has to be behave and how the staff should not be behaving. Regarding all those things, they need to give the counseling. And it is like they need to arrange for a direct working environment. They have to either go with the stimulated working environment or the direct working environment. So they have to arrange for observing the particular person in the indirect observing the he has to arrange for the arrange for the client what is the like needed of all the job related things, so that he is able to experience the real working and atmosphere, and he is able to decide whether he will be able to go with that or he will not be able to go with that. Okay, then not only that, he has to ensure that the client has a clear picture of the career structure, what is the expectation, salary, and other things, other benefits, other monetary benefits, and other things they need. So all these things he has to be clear within himself. Then not only that, he is supposed to give the details to the patient so that the patient is able to get ready for the particular job aspect. Then he will be avoiding, or he should avoid, or he should not assume any false things. That means he should not assume that particular person is able to do the things and make them to do that, so he cannot do. So you have to think whether he will be able to do it by giving a real situation, not by assuming the things. So these are the responsibility of a counselor. Then next is skill trainer. So skill trainer are who are expert in their particular field. So according to the job, the each person will be expert in the field. So those persons will be coming and giving the training. So maybe a physiotherapist, occupational therapist, or vocational trainer, or for example, like motivators, speakers, or skill trainers like communication skill trainers, or like that. So according to the job need, different skill trainers will be there, and the counselor need to select or decide what skill people will be the patient, the client should have will be referred to a particular skill trainers. Okay, so all the details the counselor will be having. The last is the placement officer. So this is the person who lies with the industry and the person. So the industry, the commercial circle, the government, every setup, the this particular person will be knowing, and he will be liaising between the client and the need on the industry. Okay, so he is aware of the complete vacancies available, and according to that, he will be choosing the person who will be able to do the particular job. So he is the last person who will be dealing with the vocational uh, examination. And then like this placement officer will be liaising with any consultation center or any job accommodate like consultation centers. So this placement officers will be getting the information, and they according to that they will be giving the training or offering the training for the particular person. Then they will be sending to the job. So in when they are sent to the job, here the final thing is whether the person is able to accommodate to the particular job, whether the person is able to do the particular job, whether the particular person is able to or will be able to manage this job for a long term process. So this is the last process of the vocational assessment. So after getting the job, how the person is getting adopted to the new job. So this job accommodation is divided into two categories. One is administrative accommodation, another one is engineering accommodation. So administration accommodation is, it will be modifying according to the particular things, like modification of the sometimes like they need to increase the job modification, like uh, in the administration. So this particular disabled person maybe need to give a lot of modifications, like giving additional lunch time, giving additional break time, because sometimes they may need they may be they will take long time to eat, sometimes they need additional breaks. So sometimes like for going to the restroom or toilets, they can if the person is able to go alone, he will just walk and go and come back. But the person who are in wheelchair will take time, so he has to first shift from the chair to the wheelchair, then slowly move the wheelchair to the restroom, then again shift from the wheelchair to the washroom, then again washroom to the wheelchair, then again coming back to the area. So he needs some additional break time, or he needs some long period of time. So these things will be the these things are the administrative accommodation. So the person or the consultant will be there in the job site, who will be checking all these accommodation. So this is one kind of accommodation. Another one is like engineering accommodation is, where the person needs some physical and structural. So for example, if a person is working using a wheelchair in a job, then how much is the desk space available, how much is the room how is the room arranged, whether the door is a sliding door or the door is a one way door, whether the person in a wheelchair will be able to enter into the room. So that is called as engineering accommodation. So according to the person who are going to take up the job, the infrastructure of the particular space have to be modified. So for that you need a person who will be looking after that. The next is job accommodation, like how this particular person is going and accommodating in the particular job. So again, it depends on both the client, whether they need to give some training for the client, so that he is able to get the accommodation and do the he is able to manage the job and do the job. So that is the final process. So till this, till the job accommodation, the whole rehabilitation team will be working. Sometimes during the job accommodation also, they may give a reference to the physiotherapist, and we may go and check them, and according to the job we may need to give some exercises so that they increase the ability of doing certain things. Okay, so it is not that as a PT we have only the role in the initial, we will be having the role even at the end of the things. Is that clear? So this is the complete work of a pre-vocational uh, assessor and the trainer. Is that clear? See, it may look little vague, but once you read the slides and understand the concept, then you will understand well. Okay. So before, like now we have seen that there is a need of the engineering accommodation. Okay. So in the last part we saw there is something called administrative accommodation. So that they will be talking to the in charge and other things, other persons, leaders, team leaders, and they will be arranging for all the administrative accommodation. This engineering accommodation needs some architectural modification. Okay, so that is the next topic we are going to see. What are the needed artificial architectural barriers we have, and how to overcome this architectural barrier. So that is the next topic we are going to see. So before going into the next topic, we will have a short break. Okay, so is it like okay for you to have a 10 minutes break? So now the time is 3:10. We will come back by 3:20. Okay, can we start? So, once the person has undergone the rehabilitation, so he needs to go back to his own life. So he needs to go back his home, or he needs to go back to his office or anything. So according to that, we have to check whether the person is able to, whether the person has any architectural barrier for him to go back to his normal life. Okay, so we need to modify according to the person, then only they will be able to live their normal life. So this artificial barrier have to be there in the house, have to be there in the environment, in the society, and have to be there in the workplace. So it is not only in available, if it is only available in the house, then the person will not be able to go into the society and go for his job. So this architectural barrier have to be seen in an overall broader aspect by the government, and they have to make sure that the society, the completely the society or the outer space is available according to their disabled person. So maybe for example, for example, 1 minute. Just wait for few minutes. Okay, sorry. So the government have to arrange they have to avoid this architectural barrier, and they have to make it user friendly for the people who are having disabled. So disabled means it is not only people who are using a wheelchair. Disability will be like a blind, deaf people, then blind, deaf, then autism. So a lot of different kinds of disability is there. So they have to look after this in a very very broader way. So here, like modern rehabilitation team always aims to promote this barrier-free environment. So barrier-free environment means like the complete environment have to be user-friendly for the people who are disabled. So disability can be like physically, sometimes like it is in the in the society also they have to change, in the educational institute they have to change, in the environment they have to change, and the attitudinal barrier also is there, that also they have to change. So that means like create awareness among the public to have the attitudinal change towards these kind of disabled people who are not able to be able to do the things normally like us. So this environmental modification is normally done in the four steps. First is determining the patient's need, then checking for the constitutional priorities, then mobilizing the available finances, then get the job done. So this is not something to do when the need comes. It has to be done before the need comes. So that means if they are going to build a building big mall, when they are planning to build a big mall itself, they have to see what are the modifications they need for the disabled person. Like they need a separate pathway for the wheelchair accessors, they need a different pathway for people who are blind. So all these kind of modifications have to be planned when they are building the structure itself, because after building, if they determine and if they do, then it will be there will be lot of additional expenses, and they may not be able to do also. So before they are doing a structural changes, in that time itself they have to determine the needs, the special needs. Then according to that they have to get the permissions or priorities from the constitution. So in case in the society if they are doing, then in the constitutional level they have to get the approval, so that priorities have to be done. Then mobilize the finances according to that, then the job has to be done. So let us see some of the artificial design or architectural design about how the structure should be there, and how like I have some videos and I have some pictures also to show you how it should be. So that means like from the medical point of view, they have designed a certain structure how it should be, so that a wheelchair person or any disabled person will be able to utilize it. So first thing is regarding the doors. So the door should be 2 feet apart. 2 feet apart means then only a person from with a wheelchair can enter into the door. So minimum they have to be, it should be 2 feet apart or 10 inch wider, and it has to open to 180 degrees. Then only the 2 feet apart door you will be able to enter into the 2 feet apart door. In case if the door is not opening to 180 degrees, if the door is opening only limited degrees, then you need to have a door of 3 feet apart. So that means it should be so wider, so the person with a disabled thing can enter into the door. So this one, like not only wheelchair, maybe person with a walker, maybe a person with a crutches, maybe person in a stretcher. So all these people need to enter into the door. So it should be that much wider apart. The next is the entrance should not have any step. So normally what they will do is at the door enter the door will be kept at little bit height, so that the person needs to step up and then have to go. So they should not have any step up like this. So if they have a step up, then people who are coming in a wheelchair, they will not be able to go up. So if they want to have a riser, then like a slope they can have, but it's better to avoid those kind of riser or a slope or anything. So that for example, after coming out of the door, if they have the slope, they may not be able to control the wheelchair, so it may end up in some accidents. So you have to try to avoid any slopes or any steps or any riser. Then next is the door numbers. So the door numbers have to have the in such a way that even the blind people are able to find out. It should be visible in the daytime as well as in the night time. So in the night time they can have something called glower. So when they glow, automatically they will be able to see it, see the number. That is one thing. Another thing is the door numbers have to be raised up so that the blind people also can touch and feel the number and they identify the door number. Then avoid round or oval doorknobs. So it may be difficult for impaired people who are having lesser hand function to open the round or a oval doorknob. So you always have to use a lever handle, so that like people who are having hand difficult hand function also will be able to open. Then the lever handles should have a closed back, so that when they are going in, the dress or any material does not get caught in the loops. So you need to be very careful regarding that. So if it is in a hook kind of model, the dress will be getting caught and they may have some injury or they may have some accident, so that you have to be very careful. Then the doors should be always a horizontal sliding or foldable doors. Instead of, if they have a two-way swinging doors, so if they push and if they go back, it may come back and hit them. So the two-way swinging doors are very, very dangerous for people who are using a wheelchair or a crutches or a walker or a blind people. All those people will find it very difficult to walk in the two-way swinging doors. So maximum time, if they have a automatic entrance, it will be very good. But automatic entrance will be a little more costlier to keep it in the house and the factories and other things. So they can also go for a horizontal slider or a folding door. Then when they are moving from one surface to other surface, they should it should be like for example, the surface should be of same kind, so that when they walk out, they should not because of the different texture, they should not fall down. So they need to have a same, or they need to have the same structure from one place to other, so that they don't fall down or they don't injure by themselves. Okay. Okay, then the surface in sense, the flooring should be of same surface, so that it doesn't affect them when they are walking. Sometimes if there's after the door, if it is very like very slippery, they may fall down, or the walker may slip, or the walking aid may slip. So they need to be very careful regarding this. Then they should have a non-stick areas inside any entrance to help the secure the footing. That means they should have any solid one, and the flooring should not be slippery. It should be very like it should not be slippery. They are supposed to hold the area and they are supposed to stand. Then safety glass vision panels are recommended on the doors, so that they can see what is happening outside, and according to that they can open the door and walk out. So this is very, very important. Next, regarding the bathrooms, like they need to install the night lights along the pathway. So, along the pathway as well as along the door, so that every outlet will be clearly seen even in the nights. Then they have to install a shower seat. So if they want to take bath, they can sit and take bath. Then they should have a non-stick mat, not non-slip mat, so that they don't slip when they are walking in the water using the walking aid. Then the door should be like hinged bathrooms. Door should swing outward. So that means like it should swing outward, and it should not swing inside. So when it is swinging inside, it will be hitting the person. So always it should be swinging outside. Mostly like sliding or folding doors are very satisfactory, and the lock should be able to open on both ways. Sometimes if they stuck up in the bathroom, it will be very difficult for us to open. Sometimes if they fall down in the bathroom, it will be very difficult for us to open. So it should be like the lock should be able to open on both ways. So this is about the bathrooms, you can see. So this is a seat in the shower. So they will be able to sit and take bath, and they can sit and take bath. So this is also another example. So for people who are not able to walk to the restrooms, they can also have a commode like this, so that they can just go near their bed. These are the modifications which we can do. So these are some of the other modifications. Like in the bathroom, they should have a handrail so that they can hold this and sit down. And this all the handrails where the patient will be able to hold it and stand, or hold it and sit. And the bathroom should be wider enough so that they are able to go inside with the wheelchair. Then easily they are able to move to the commode. Okay, so these are some of the modifications. You can see all the area will be having hand railings, so that they are able to hold and they are able to stand. So this is something, this is in the lift. So even in the lift also, you can have a hand railings or side railings, so the patient will be able to hold it and stand inside. Next is regarding the stairs or ramp. So first thing, steps should have a should be 90 degrees, or it should be like step should have a landing at 90 degrees or 180 degrees, so that they can sit for some time and take rest. Okay. So every after certain number of steps, they should have a smooth area where they can stand, or sometimes they can sit and they can take rest. And the height of the step should be only 6 inches. It should not be broader. And yeah, the it should be having an additional extra kind of a thread. Okay, where you need to where it should not be, where you should it should not be sharp. It should be like blunt, and it should not even if they hit the feet or something, it should not hurt them. So they should have a blend surface. Okay, then the riser or the slope should be only till 1 to 1.5 inch, so that it is easy for the people who are having wheelchair and wheelchair to move out. Then even if the riser should not be so high, so that people who are having a walker and other people, if it is too much, then they will not be able to climb up. So the riser should be only 1 to 1.5 inches. So you need to see to that. Then all the steps should needs a side railing, and the side railing height should be 30 to 35 34 inches. Okay, the height of the side railings should be 30 to 34 inches of height, so that it is exactly over, it will be exactly near to the greater trochanter, so the patient will be able to hold it easily. Okay, and it should be 1.5 inches away from the wall. So from the wall it should be 1.5 inches away, so people will be able to hold the side railings properly, and good lighting should be there to avoid shadows. So normally when they have lightings, sometimes what will happen, the lightings will be creating shadows. So if they have shadows, it will be difficult for the people to walk. So it is better to avoid the shadows. So it should have a good lightings. Okay, then they have to avoid painting and wall hanging, and avoid carpets. So when they are walking, especially using a crutches and other thing, the carpets may slip down. So you need to avoid you need to avoid any carpet, so it doesn't come out along with the wheelchair wheels, it doesn't struck with the wheels, it doesn't hit the uh, like any walkers and other thing uh, will not uh, will not what to say, it will be affecting whenever they are walking with the walkers and other thing, because the carpets, whenever they are putting the carpets, the people will not be able to see the stairs very clearly. And same if they are keeping the walker at the edges, the carpet may slip it down. So that's why we need to avoid carpet in the steps, and all the steps should be of equal height and equal tread, so that it doesn't affect so that the people will have good justification. So sometimes they will be missing the justification. So you can see here, so this kind, if the people are having this kind, then they will not be able to use the wheelchair. So whenever there is a step, there should be a ramp also. Okay, so wherever there is a step, there should be a ramp also, and the ramp also has certain specification, you have to use according to the specification. So here if you see, there is a side railings, and the steps, everything are clearly of equal height. There is a area where if you want to sit, they can sit. Okay, so they can just lift this up and they can sit, take rest before going to the next one. So there should be some platform area in between each level, so that they can take rest and they can move out. So they cannot climb continuously 3 or 4 floors together. So they need to have some breaks. Okay. So regarding the ramp should be of 5 to 8 degrees slope. It should not be too steep, or it should not be too shallow. So it should be from 5 to 8 degrees slope. So gradually they will be able to slow down move out in the ramp, and it should be divided into sections. So every 5 feet there should be a division. So you can see it clearly. Every 5 feet there should be a division, and there is a change in the direction of the ramp. So otherwise they will be just slow, what to say, they will just slip and they will just move down. Okay, so you need to be very careful regarding this. Then the platform for resting between the section also should be of different direction, so that the wheelchair, it's easy for the wheelchair to turn. Another thing, the ramp should be 6 feet apart, so that the wheelchair can be turned and it can move easily. Then the hand railing should be 12 to 24-inch gap for the people who we can assist the people who are blind. Okay, and the cribs also should be along with the ramp. So cribs is this one is a cribs, the gap in between. So this one is a cribs. Okay. So just a moment, I am getting continuous call from the office. I will talk and I'll come back. Hello.
Hello, Miss.
Oh, yes, Miss. Sorry. So, next is regarding the elevators. So, elevator should be of the same height as the other flooring. So, elevator should not be of a different height. So, the level should be equal to the door and the floor and other things. So that the people who are using a wheelchair or people who are blind also will be able to easily enter into the elevators. Okay, then um, it should have a automatic sliding doors, so that with delayed closing. Okay, so that means the time period should be little bit extended. So normally this automatic door closer will close when it will be working according to the sensor. When nothing is crossing above and nothing is crossing below, it will be having two sensors above and below. So if nothing is there, then automatically it will close. But we need to delay the elevator, so that sometimes people who are having like walking with the crutches and all, so the when they walk, sometimes the sensors will not take up. So it may close and it may cause accident. So you need to keep it, or you need to set in such a way that the door will be closing little bit delayed. That means after the sensor is not sensing any abstract, after that few like maybe 10 seconds or 20 seconds only, the door has to get closed. So you need to set according to that. And the control panel should be of the appropriate height. So that means even the people who are coming in a wheelchair also should be able to reach out. And people who are shorter or people who are holding the hand railings and standing also should be able to reach it. So if you see here, most of the bigger malls and all, they will be having two control panels. So near to the hand railings, you will be having one control panel, and near to the door walls, you will be having another control panel. So people who are using wheelchair will be able to reach the lower height. People who are standing will be able to reach the higher height. Then the button should always have a lights, and the button should have the elevated figures, so that the visually handicapped people will be able to check and they will be able to use it. So that is very very important. Okay, then emergency sound alarm and telephone also should be there. And sometimes automatic door announcement should be there, so that the blind people knows the level of the floor. So it should come like now 8th floor, 6th floor, like that. The automatic announcement should be definitely there. Next is so these are about the environment and other thing. I think we can stop here. You will be having your next class, right? So next is like we will see the architectural barriers about the self like ADL one. Okay, so we will continue in the next class. See, sorry for the in between lot of disturbance. So I had to answer few of the official calls. Okay. So we will continue tomorrow. It will be like 1 hour class.
Madam,
Ah, yes.
hi madam, I'm Leong from PD9. I would like to ask because we haven't get any updates regarding for mid-sem. I would like to ask that do we have exam briefing before mid-sem and also our mid-sem timetable, exam timetable?
Okay, exam timetable you check with your batch coordinator. But regarding rehabilitation, you will be having your exam along with the R6 R7. That means I think you will be having your exam next week.
Oh, next week.
Yes.
Okay.
But you
If
check
we
with
want to request for
Dr.
the
Deepti.
exam briefing, we have to inform who?
You inform Dr. Deepti, and maybe she will be arranging for it. So how about
Okay.
R6 and R7? Do you also need to have the exam briefing, because we are going to use the same thing which we have used previously?
Okay, like
The
it's
50 and
both like upload
10
and also type in the box, two option, isn't it?
Yes, yes. So
Okay.
if you
Okay.
want a briefing, then I will check with the exam coordinator and I'll let you know.
Okay. Thank you,
Okay.
madam.
Okay. But rehabilitation, I think next week you will be having your exam. So regarding that timetable, maybe I can also forward you. Your other subjects, you better check with Dipti.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam,
Any other things?
hi madam.
Yeah. Tell me.
Why like no one informed us about our exam earlier because it seems like it's very last minute.
Regarding your mid semester.
Yeah.
Regarding rehabilitation, I remember telling you in the earlier classes itself that you will be having along with your R6 and R7, and the exam will be at the 7th week before your mid-semester.
Other subject.
Other subjects, okay, okay, I will talk to Dr. Deepthi,
Okay, thank you,
because
madam.
the batch coordinators have to inform her. Anyways, I will talk to her and I'll find out.
Okay,
But
thank you, madam.
you don't have any problem with rehab, right?
No.
Because I remember telling you earlier itself that we will be having before your mid semester.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Regarding like rehabilitation, regarding the questions and other things, we will be having discussion this week, Thursday's class. After Thursday's class, we will have a discussion. Okay. Okay. Anything else? Any other doubts? Okay. Thank you.